Hi everyone, it's me, Emily, here to talk to you about my crafts some more. It has been over a month since the last time I did a video talking about my crafts. I've been out of town visiting my parents for 3 weeks, and then I've been back just over a week. And while I was visiting, I took some smaller projects to work on, and I made a lot of progress on those. So I've got a lot of progress to show on kind of some smaller projects, and I've got some finishes that you never even saw started because I just did them while I was on vacation. Now that I'm back, I've kind of started doing what's hopefully going to be more of a rotation of, one cross-stitch project a week and then a different knitting project and other types of craft projects every day. So hopefully we'll be seeing more progress in the future here. Anyway, I have a pile of stuff to show you that's about this tall. We're going to be talking today, again, like always, about a bunch of different things. I'm going to have links at the top during the whole video, so if you're only interested in one thing, you can skip right to it. Today, I'm going to be talking about my cross stitch, some progress on it, and a thing I'm going to start today after I get done with this video. I'm going to talk about my knitting and now spinning. So actually, I think I've got like a bunch of finishes and then a couple new projects, not really any progress on the projects that you've seen before. And then I've got my sewing, some progress on that, and then my other crafts, I've got some stuff in progress and some other stuff that I finished. So that should be fun. Anyway, we will get started with this giant pile and hope that the dog doesn't bark too much. All right. So first of all, cross stitch. The first thing that I worked on, well, it's not the first thing I worked on, but the first thing I'm going to show you that I worked on was the 12 Days of Christmas sampler by Plum Street Samplers. And I took this with me when I was going to my parents over Christmas. And let me just look at this briefly to figure out which way is up, which is the front and which is the back. Okay, this is the front. I didn't get very much done on this. Is that right? Yes, that is. Okay, let's show you what I did. Um, this is a piece of 28 count linen. I don't know what it is. I just got it in like a thrift shop with some other linens. And I'm doing this 1/1. And as you can see, I kind of started in the middle and I worked my way up doing the frames. And then I realized that meant that I was working on the over here on like this last frame, and I was like, wait a minute, that's dumb. So then I counted over and I started working on the very first projects frame, or the very first squares frame. It's a squares from the 12 Days of Christmas song, basically. And that is as far as I got. I was using this needle to mark the last stitch as I went down. So I was going to go down to that needle and then I was going to turn and come back up. But that's as far as I got. I'm probably going to put this away and not pick it up until next, like, I don't know, October, November, maybe even December. I'm not in a huge rush on this. I'm not hugely into Christmas projects, although I do like the 12 Days of Christmas song. So I'll just pick that back up whenever it comes around and whenever I'm in the mood again, but I'm not in any huge rush to finish it. So that's the first thing that I worked on. The next thing that I worked on is my Heaven and Earth design. I'm doing 4 Heavenly Beasts by Kaomi Hirai. If you're not familiar with it from my previous videos, it looks like this when finished, which is super cool. And I am working on that on 18 count Aida, 2/1, and I'm working, it's giant, so I'm working in this column. I think I was probably about here-ish when you last saw it, so I've gone down a ways on it. I'm trying to figure out how to position this again. As you can see with my kind of like jagged column edges, I'm not getting any sort of column visible mark between the two columns, which I really like. I like how it's all coming together. I'm going to keep going down the page. I do parking one row at a time across 20 stitches. Man, everything's backwards. And down here I've got a royal mess because I leave my needles in my threads when I park just to make things faster. So, been doing that, been loving that. Oh, the one big change that I made with this is I was using the DMC black, and for up in here, for example, there's a lot of black, and it's okay, and my coverage is pretty decent on 18 count, but I wasn't like thrilled with it. And then I ended up getting some Anchor Black because I was making another order and I've been wanting to try it. And I decided to go ahead and switch from DMC Black to Anchor Black because Anchor Black is supposed to do better coverage. And it does. I've definitely noticed that. And I figured that because it was really. Oh, there's the dog. It was really only this corner where there was a lot of DMC black. I figured with the size of the piece, you probably wouldn't notice if I switched and there were like a few little different black bits in here. If it ends up being like really noticeable, I'll just take out this corner and redo this corner because that's seriously like 98% black. But I'm liking it. I'm liking the coverage now that I'm getting into it. I'm liking everything about it. I've worked on that one for a week now, and I'm going to take, well, it was about here when I started working on it for a week. I do about 100 stitches an hour, and I usually do about an hour when I start working on it. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to switch to the next project. Oh, and I was going to show you, so this is my chart, and you can see I color stuff in with highlighter, and I change the color of my highlighter every day. So it's kind of fun to see like how many stitches did I do in a day just based on how big the highlighter section is. You can see this was the day that I started it, and I basically watched the entire Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy and cross-stitched like all day. So I got a lot in, and then everything else has been, a little different. So anyway, that was just fun, and I like seeing the progress I'm making, so I figured I would show it at a distance so you can't actually see the chart. So that was my 4 Heavenly Beasts. And then today I'm going to start a stitch along that I mentioned. It's called the Round and Circle Stitch Along by Mabel Figworthy, and it's a hardanger stitch along. And it's set up to do 1 pattern per month, getting more and more complicated. So you kind of start out, the first circle doesn't have any cut thread work in it at all, and then as you go on, you'll get more cut bits. So I've got my supplies waiting for me. I've got some white hardanger cloth. I've got a bunch of white DMC in various sizes. Although I was noticing when I like put it on the cloth that these whites are a little bit creamier than the cloth is. I think I should have probably gotten either antique white hardanger or the bright white DMC if I wanted them to match exactly, but I'm okay with a little bit of cream on white. I'm definitely doing, the Sal has a bunch of different variations. There's like a single color, like white on hand-dyed fabric, and she's got instructions for doing like multiple colors on white, but I decided after some consideration that I did want to do it the traditional white on white. With silver accents. So I've got some silver petite treasure braid, which I've never worked with before, and I'm super excited to try. And I have some silver seed beads, which technically the instructions said if you're doing the white version to do it with white seed beads, but I decided I wanted to do silver. And then I have some silver sequins. That's not in this week's, or this month's. It's not in the January block. I don't know when they're going to come in, but I figured I would get them early. Got them on eBay. I've got a few more silver and white accent pieces coming in. So anyway, that should be really interesting. And like I said, I'm planning on starting that this afternoon, seeing how that goes. Make this all fit back into the container. Come on. Yeah, close enough. All right. So that's what I'm going to be doing with my cross stitching. I almost didn't do any cross stitching while I was at my parents'. I did like a tiny bit, like maybe 45 minutes on the 12-day sampler, but nothing else. And I've been working on that 4 Heavenly Beasts since I got back. So I don't have a lot of progress to show on the cross stitch. So that's what I've got done, and hopefully next time I video I will have a lot of progress on that hardanger and maybe even some progress on another piece as well. So that's my cross stitch. The next thing I'm going to talk about is my knitting. Now the knitting is the main thing I did while I was at my parents'. So I've got a lot of progress to show you. Let me get a drink first though. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is I finished the socks that I was knitting, and I'm going to show them to you. I pulled them out of the dirty clothes because they were worn and they haven't been washed, so they're probably not like the neatest because they need to be washed. But I finished these socks. This is the Rusamine pattern by Kawa Coffee. I knit them in this yellow was online Super Sock Mally color. The color is it's one of those companies that just gives numbers to their colors. So the color is 1749. And the black is a Regia 3-ply black. Knit them on size 2 double points. This is the first pair of socks I've ever knit for myself. I am about 99% happy with them. The only thing is, as I was knitting them, I was kind of thinking, this feels like it fits, but it feels like it's, I don't know, a little loose kind of a thing. They fit me actually quite well, although I noticed that they kind of stretch out. So I think I probably should have knit them a tiny bit tighter. And I was also quite doubtful about using the size 2s. I think that if I had used I think I probably would have had to recalculate the proportions, but I think I would have been happier if I'd used a slightly smaller needle and had a slightly tighter thing, because this is exactly the gauge the pattern calls for. It came out the exact size the pattern says, but it's just a little bit, I don't know, it's hard to describe, especially because I don't have a lot of like hand knit sock experience, but it feels like it should be just a little bit tighter of a fabric and it should be a tiny bit closer of a fit. So, anyway, that's what I did with this. On the whole, I'm very pleased with them. I've worn them several times. I'm pretty sensitive, but I don't find them at all itchy. I don't find them at all. I can feel the pearl bumps, and I think that's why I want it to be a little bit tighter next time, but they don't bother me to walk on them. And they're very warm and very comfortable. I wore them on the plane when I came back because I wanted something nice and warm for my feet that was comfy, and they are. And the biggest complaint that I have with socks is the toes usually, because they've always got that like stitched ridge on commercial sock toes that I hate. These don't have that, and I love them for it. So anyway, those are my socks. Quite like them. Very glad I finished them. I am super excited to keep knitting socks. I have some ideas for what I want to do differently with my next pair, and I'm like super stoked about that. The next thing I did was something I've been meaning to do for like 2 years, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it. I made myself a little cover for my cell phone, because sometimes I put my cell phone in my pocket with my keys, and that risks scratching the screen. So this is based on the Gray Lady tablet slash Kindle cover by Pearl Morgan, but that's obviously sized for a tablet Kindle, and I have a very small phone. As well, it's not very small, but it's small as smartphones go. And so I basically just did only, I think, 2 repeats per side instead of doing 6 or whatever it called for. And so basically, don't bark, doggy. It just slides on over the phone, and then this little top bit. I probably could have done, hello, buttonhole. I probably could have stood to knit it just a tiny bit longer, but then I wouldn't have ended at the end of a pattern repeat. So it just buttons like this, and if I give it a good little yank, it'll, fully cover the phone. But really, for something to fit in my pocket that won't add bulk, but also will protect the screen from key scratches, I quite like it. The yarn is it's a nylon. It's what I believe to be a nylon yarn, which I dyed myself. It started out Life Baby Pink, and I ended up dyeing it. This was the first yarn I ever dyed to this kind of like burgundy red type color. So I quite like it. It was fun to do. I'm super glad that I'm finally, done with this project because I've been meaning to do this for quite a while, and my phone, I'm sure, will appreciate not being scratched. And then, along those same lines, another project I've been meaning to do for ages is a cover for my Nook. Because, likewise, it sometimes ends up thrown in a bag with other things. So I've got a little Nook here, e-reader. I used the Gray Lady nope, that was the cell phone cover, my bad. I used the Kindle cover by Mon Petit Violon, Violon. and it's got this little loop here that goes around this little like flower button that you make. So it's pretty cool. On this one, I think I ended up I don't think I took any repeats out. I think I just used a slightly tighter hook for a slightly smaller gauge because it was pretty close in size. Because she has like a Kindle and an iPad size in the pattern, and so I just used the one that was closer to the Nook size, which I believe was the Kindle. So anyway, this is crocheted. It's got these really nifty little like raised they're front post stitches. They're little raised stitches on the top of the pattern or on the top of the background. Let's see. I used the Naturally Karen Spa yarn. It's a discontinued yarn that's a bamboo based yarn. So it's very soft and very silky. It's kind of like silky. The color is Ocean Spray. I used a 5mm or size H hook. And this further confirmed that while I can crochet, it is not my favorite. I don't know, I don't love crocheting. I love the way it came out, and I'm glad that it was a fairly small project, and to be honest, I probably did it faster in crochet than I would have knitting, but it's just not my cup of tea. So, anyway, I'm super happy with it. I'm super glad that I've got it and that it's done, and I absolutely adore this pattern. So, there's that. My Nook cover. Now, I still had some of that yarn left over. This was a yarn that I had bought. Let's see, which bag is it in? This was a yarn I had bought back when I first kind of started knitting, and I didn't know how the fiber content of the yarn affected the finished product, and I didn't know like how much yarn you needed for certain things. I didn't know what I liked to knit. So it was kind of a yarn that I picked up, and I was like, and once I kind of knew more of that stuff, I was looking at it and I was going, I really love this yarn, but I don't know what I'm going to use it for. So what I ended up deciding to use it for was a pair of bed socks. Now, it's bamboo based, so it's not going to be good. I don't believe doesn't have any wool in it. I can't remember whether it's got something besides bamboo in it. Wait, do I have it? I do. It is... I do have the label. It's 75% microdenier acrylic, 25% rayon from bamboo. It's this stuff. And like I said, super soft and silky, and I really love the feel of it, but it's definitely not going to be something that holds up to being like proper socks. But I figured that because it was super soft and I really liked the feel of it, but it was also going to be kind of like the type of fabric tends to like stretch out and not necessarily come back into shape. And I've done like a hat with another color of it, and the brim of the hat really does like stretch out and then not come back in. So I figured I would do some bed socks because I tend to want to kick them off in the middle of the night, and I thought that maybe they would go on and they would like kind of keep my toes warm, but then be loose enough that I could kick them off in the middle of the night without waking up. So I figured I would try that. I've got my yarn wound and in these lovely old, they're like my brother's old socks, the tops of them to hold that yarn together, because that yarn is so slippery. It was really hard to wind it and not have it like slip off every which way. So let me go back to what I was doing. I originally wanted to do the Gentleman's Matrimony Celebratory Socks by Sockbug. They've got this kind of like diagonal pearl spiral type of thing going on. But then once I started knitting it, so I'm doing like with the gauge from that pattern, and I'm doing the number of stitches from that pattern and everything. But then once I got going, I was like, I just really want to do plain stockinette socks. So I'm doing plain stockinette socks, 2 at a time, cuffed down on US size 1, which is the 2.25mm needles. These are, I believe, 60-inch Chigu needles. Very nice for doing the magic loop thing. And the other reason I wanted to do them 2 at a time, and also just plain, is this is what I did. I did like from about here up on the airplane, and I didn't want to have to think about it or have to count my rows or anything. I just wanted to be able to go around and around and around. So, like I said, I'm not actually using the Gentleman's Matrimony Celebratory Sock, pattern, but I'm using like the stitch counts and everything from it. I'm also thinking, I recently got the Fish Lips Kiss Heel pattern by Socks Therapist, which I've never used but I've heard good things about. So I was thinking about trying it on these socks. I haven't decided yet. I'll decide when I get there. But anyway, this is, like I said, this is again the Naturally Care and Spa Ocean Spray yarn. So that's a lot of fun. I've noticed. I think I probably prefer DPNs to doing it magic loop because I am faster on them. Even though you only have to adjust the magic loop twice per round instead of like 3 or 4 times per round the way you do with double points, I find adjusting it takes longer. But I also kind of really like doing them 2 at a time. So, and I don't want to do that whole like knit on one on double points and then knit on the other on double points. No. If I'm going to do them 2 at a time, they're going to be 2 at a time magic loops. That way I can just, that way I don't have to think at all about how many rows I do on each one. So, it's nifty. I like it. Alright, then the next thing that I'm going to show you is, okay good, this is the correct project bag. So I had done a video talking about dyeing this yarn. I'm just going to show you this because it's kind of tight fitting in the project bag I've got it in. And it's actually a lot pinkier of a purple. It shows a blue purple on camera, but it's really a pinky purple. And so if you look at my video right before this one, it's all about dyeing this yarn, and so it's got a color corrected picture at the end if you really want to see what color it is. But, so this was the Lion brand Fisherman's Wool in Oatmeal, which is kind of a neutrally creamy type color, and I dyed it using food coloring to this pinky purple because I wanted to make a sweater dress for my dog. So it's kind of her like winter dress. It's going to have like ruffles on the back and everything and be cute. So she's over here like thinking about barking at people. So the pattern I'm using is the Little Black Dress with Pearls dog sweater by My Savannah Cottage. It's supposed to be like a little black dress with like a pearl necklace. I'm skipping the pearl necklace, and I'm not making it black, but I liked how it had this kind of like ruffle at the base, like a ruffly dress, and it's going to be cute and all this. So anyway, right now, all that I'm doing is my swatch. I'm swatching on size 7 bamboo needles right now, and this is just the beginning of a 4x4 gauge swatch. I'm going to swatch it and then wash it because I want to see how that affects it. I suspect that will probably affect the gauge with this yarn a fair bit. So anyway, not very much progress, but it's going to be a cute little dog sweater, and I dyed the yarn for it myself, and I'm super happy with that. Oh, and my foot's going to sleep. Okay. So that's that project, which I will hopefully have more progress on once I get done with that gauge swatch. I actually kind of like swatching. I know a lot of people don't really like it, but I like it because I don't have to think about the pattern. I can just, knit the yarn, and then, you wash it and you check it out and you see how it is. And I usually measure pre-washing and post-washing my gauge because it's really interesting to me to see like sometimes the stitch gauge will change but not the row gauge and stuff like that. Plus it makes it easier when I'm actually knitting it and I'm like, is this still on gauges? I can measure the pre-washed gauge and know that yes, it's still the same gauge. It will come out the correct size even though right now it doesn't look the correct size. So that was my knitting. The other thing that I started doing was spinning. Now I had shown you a time or two before that I had gotten a drop spindle that I was going to get as a Christmas present, and I also have some roving that I had gotten quite a while ago that I was saving. And then for Christmas I got all of that plus the book Respect the Spindle, which is by Abby Frankmont. Really awesome book for spindle spinning. So this is my very first hand spun yarn. And I can see that my little loopy things have come down and it's a little bit. So this is the Knit Picks Full Circle Roving in Fawn. It does not come braided. I braided it myself after I pulled some off and I wanted to figure out a way to get it back into this little container to hold it. And like I said, I'm spinning it on my, well, I didn't say this. I'm spinning it on my Stotched High-Low 1.1 ounce drop spindle. I'm spinning it low whirl at the moment. And my plan is to basically spin this whole thing of roving up, because I got 4 different sets of Knit Picks roving because they were cheap. And then my plan is to spin this whole thing up on a low whirl and then spin my next whole thing up on high whirl. And I'm not worrying too much about like being super consistent with how I'm drafting it. I'm experimenting with like different drafting styles and kind of messing around to see what works best for me. I'm not like, I want it to be consistent, but I'm not like super fussed about it, given that I am planning on applying this. So anyway, I don't know what I'm going to do with it afterwards, but it is tons and tons and tons of fun. I might love this more than knitting, which is like a lot because I really love knitting, but I might love this more. So, but the good news is I figure that I will buy my roving, I will spin it, I will dye it, and then I will knit it, and everything will be good. I'm kind of thinking that I might, because this is kind of a kind of red toned tan, I'm thinking I might dye it like reds and yellows and oranges and make something kind of fiery looking. I don't know. It's fun. I don't care. um, so yeah, I'm really happy with that. Really happy with that. Yep, and I have no intention of getting a spinning wheel. I love spinning, and I love spinning on the drop spindle. So, never say never. But for right now, I have no intention of getting a spinning wheel because I'm very happy with that drop spindle, and part of the reason I'm really happy with it is I can take it places and I can work on it in other places. So I can work on it while I'm waiting for the bus. I can work on it while I'm in a lab meeting. We talk in our lab meetings. We're not like biology lab where we're like doing lab stuff, just for the record. But yeah, so it's really nice and portable, and I really like doing it, and I feel like I'm rambling. So let's get things back on track. That was my knitting, crochet, spinning. The dog was about to bark, but she decided not to. Good job. Good choice. Good choice. So next, I'm going to talk about my sewing. Now, I've only worked on one sewing project, really, because I don't count mending clothes. And that is my little dragon hand puppet ancient kit thing that I don't know where you would get it from, because it was given to me, well, no, it was given to my parents by my grandmother when I was really little, I think, or possibly before I was born. Unclear. It's old. So really all that I've been doing on this, it's, oh, now I should have pulled out the pieces in the order that I wanted them. It's, okay, here we go. It's this kind of pre-printed fabric that you then quilt. And what I've been doing is, you can see all these hanging threads here. There's more on the front, but they're green, so they blend in. And what I've been doing with those is I have been pulling them to the back, knotting them, and kind of hiding the ends and then cutting off the ends. So now it looks like this. So instead of being like this, it looks like this. And it takes forever. And I probably, when I was doing the machine quilting on it, I was like, maybe I should be dealing with these ends as I go. And then I was like, nah, I'll just do all the machine quilting and then I'll deal with all the ends. I should have been dealing with the ends as I go. So anyway, but I think over halfway done with that. Oh, probably not. Actually, I just looked down in there and saw how many more ones I've got. Although I did discover, it's not this one. I did discover, yeah, it's this one. Yeah, on this one, there's this one I didn't quilt. I didn't quilt this. So like this, no. This is not quilted. This is not quilted. And then down here on his tail, this line here is not quilted. So this one's going to have to get re-quilted when I go to sew them together. But you can see he's big. And this isn't even all of his tail. This is like partway down his tail at this point in his head. So anyway, I'm kind of focusing on this. I'd like to get it done because it's It's been a while that I've been working on it, and I'd kind of like to actually be done with it. Because I think it's going to be really cool, and I've got a lot of sewing projects that I want to do, but I don't like to have that many projects going at one time. So, working on my dragon puppet, making progress on my dragon puppet. Looking forward to being done with this whole dealing with loose ends of thread thing. So that's all I've been really doing on my sewing. And the next thing I'm going to talk about are my other crafts. So I wanted a box to hold my colored pencils. I had decided to take my colored pencils out of their. I had it was like a, not like an artist's box, but it was like kids' colored pencils that come in those little boxes that hold them upright with, a little cardboard box that you open up the top and all the things are sticking up. And what I didn't like about it was trying to sort it by color or trying to sort it by number. And no matter what I did, it was kind of hard for me to figure out exactly which colors I wanted and put them back in the right order every time. So I saw someone, it was Dee Dee Willingham on YouTube, keeps her colored pencils, and she has a lot more than I do, but she keeps her colored pencils rubber banded together by color family so that she can look at all of her yellows and pick the yellows she wants. And I was like, that's awesome. That's what I want to do. So I did that, and then I needed a box to put them in. So I ended up going to a local cigar shop and buying for really cheap some cigar boxes. My plan was to buy one. I bought 3. But I didn't really want obviously cigar boxes. I don't smoke and I don't really like smoking, so I didn't really want obvious cigar box in my house. I wanted something more decorative. So I started finishing them in different ways, but they're really nice wood, so I had to buy 3 even though I really only needed 1. So for this one opens up like so, and it's like this in the middle. And this one, I have no idea what the brand was. I don't care what the brand was, but it was painted black with gold, like a gold logo on it. But I could tell that it was painted and that it was actual wood underneath. On some of them, the tops are particle board, but this was actual wood. So what I did was I unscrewed all the hardware. The hardware had been painted black too, and I used okay, I have the supplies for refinishing wood. I refinished my desk that I work on. I don't know, maybe I want to say a little less than a year ago. I think maybe, I don't know. So I basically stripped it. I used acetone, for fingernail polish remover, to strip all of the paint off of the hardware, and then I refinished it with a stain and a finish, and I really like it. The only thing that I don't love is that somehow, despite being really careful, my finish dripped. So you can see these drips because it was drying like this and it dripped down. I thought I had a thin enough coat, but I didn't. So it's not my best job ever. The desk is my best job ever, but it's also, I wasn't probably paying as much attention as I was with the desk because it was like a $2 cigar box. But I really like it. I have no idea what I'm going to keep in it. No idea. I don't care. It's so pretty. So that's my first cigar box. And it no longer smells like cigars. It now kind of smells like finish. This one obviously is still in the process of being I have stuff in this, so I don't want to tip it too much. But it's so this box was clearly Macanudo 1968 Toro cigars, whatever that means. But you can see that it's a paper on top of a particle board here. Although the inside is wood, the outside is particle board. And so in this, at the moment, I have my fountain pen and dip pen supplies. While I was at my parents', I picked up this, it's a calligraphy fountain pen that my grandmother had given them that they didn't need because my mom already had her own, and so I was using it for a while, and then I didn't bring it with me when I moved, and so I grabbed it while I was there. And I also have a really cheapy speedball dip pen. So this is for those things. and I'm planning on covering it. You can see I've actually peeled out, but I left in there because I wanted to use it to get the exact right size when I cut this down. So I peeled off this, the whole box used to have this type patterned paper as trim around all the corners. So I peeled that off. I peeled as much of this paper off as I could without damaging it, and my plan is to recover it with some more paper. I have some, it's a 12 by 12 pattern paper, and it's like, I believe it's like black paper with this white like script writing on it. So my plan is to cover this box with that because it's my writing type things. But anyway, that's that one, and the reason I like this one is I like the hardware on it. Very nice. Lovely little box. Put this one down carefully. And then, this is the box that's being used for what I originally wanted to get a box for. It's also partway through the whole redoing process. So this box has got my colored pencils bundled by color family in it. I only have 4 purples. Can you believe that? I have this. Okay, this is one set. This is one set. I have this many greens and this many purples. They could have done that more evenly. They could have done that more evenly. Anyway, the inside I painted just with brown with acrylic, and you can kind of, well, you're not going to be able to see it, but you can kind of start to see where there's, oh, you can, some coloring that's happening on it from the colored pencils. I've decided I don't care. The inside will be brown with colored pencil marks on it. And then for the outside, I have this 12 by 12 paper that to me looks like a coloring book sheet. So, because I've got my colored pencils in there, I put that on all of the flat surfaces. And then for my trim, so I've got this trim here that I'm going to put around all the edges. What I'm doing is I am coloring it in with the colored pencils. You can see this is my progress on this piece that I've got left over. It was, obviously it was like, you know, cut out the top and then do this on it. So I really like that one. I did that one last night. So I've got that, and then I'm cutting this down into these little strips, and basically I will like put it on here and then fold it around and glue it down. And obviously I'll make the corners nice and neat and everything. But so you can see it'll have like coloring book and then colored in coloring book type appearance. I think it's going to be cute. We'll see if it's actually cute. But that is my plan with this cigar box, which is the whole reason that I went and bought one cigar box. The other 2 were just kind of like impulse buys. So I've been doing that. Let me put this down carefully. And then the other thing that I've been doing in my kind of other art category is I've been doing some watercolor painting. I use a planner. I need to fix that. And I didn't, when I opened my paper planner, I would kind of see this like sticky notes. And I like sticky notes, but they weren't really what I wanted to see when I first opened my planner. So I painted myself this little watercolor. Which, yeah, there you go. So this was painted, I used a tutorial. I used the Learn to Paint Pussy Willows tutorial by Lindsay Wyrick that she sells on My Graphico. It's a it's like a PDF, and it's got like step-by-step instructions with pictures and everything. So I did that. I quite liked it. I did the Reeves watercolor for most of it, and the only thing that didn't come in my like basic Reeves student set was a burnt sienna. I don't know why they didn't have a burnt sienna in there. So the burnt sienna color is actually the M. Graham Artist Quality burnt sienna, because it ended up being more efficient to just buy a better quality one. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. So I did that. And it's on Strathmore watercolor paper. And so, anyway, I really like it. I really like it. It's interesting. So this little kind of, you see that little pattern kind of on the background? Like, that is just the paper. I think I put the paper down upside down or something, because all of my background kind of has that weird but interesting texture to it. Anyway, I liked it. I painted it. I thought it came out really cool. Um, to be entirely fair, I should note that that's like my second time painting it because I started it and I looked at it and I was like, I need to do this differently because I didn't like how the background had come out. So I used that one to practice all the bits and then I painted them for real. I've been known to do that more than once on some of my paintings. So that was my first painting, and then the second thing I painted was this little European robin that I did. This was also done with a tutorial by Lindsay Wyrick. I really like her watercolor tutorials. This was a free tutorial on her YouTube channel, which is The Frugal Crafter. She just calls it Robin Watercolor Tutorial. Same Reeves watercolor with Ingram Burnt Sienna. It's on a Strathmore watercolor card, so it's actually a greeting card. And I'm pretty happy with it. I think in hindsight that his head probably needs to poke out a little bit more. He looks kind of like he has a squashed face. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. There's some stuff I'm going to do differently, obviously, but it's practice. I really haven't done that much watercolor painting, and it comes out like this, so I'm pretty darn happy. He's cute. Anyway, so yeah, those are the two paintings that I've done. That's all the art that I've done. That's really all I had to talk about this week, except it's been a month and a week, so that's all I have to talk about for right now, I guess. I hope that you enjoyed it, whether you watched one part or you watched all of it. Let me know if you have any questions or comments or requests for me to go into more detail on something I talked about. I'm happy to do that. Yeah, that would be awesome. And then I will see you in hopefully not a month. All right, bye.